All right. Let's hope we don't get booted out again.
Well, we'll just come right back.
Yes. We've got tenacity, right?
That's what I'm made of, Liz Dawn.
Too. I know. I have a friend tells me all the time, she goes, Liz Dawn, you are like a dog with a pork chop. Oh.
Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Okay. Are we back again? Oh my gosh. Back. We are back. I am so sorry. I am going to like make sure hold on. All right, hold on. Here we go. Yep. All right. Let me mute this. Okay, here we go again.
Technology, take two.
Take two, absolutely. I'm going to shut down everything else on my computer because maybe I'm just using way too much bandwidth or something. But here we go. We're doing this. Hey, everybody. I'm so sorry about that interruption, but I'm going to wait just a couple of minutes and just schmooze for a minute or two until we get everybody back in again. Okay, here we go. Hi, Tara. Hi, Tanya. Hi, everybody. We're here with Tris Thorp. Tris, thank you so much for your patience. I'm so glad.
Oh my gosh. I'm happy to be here. And I have these issues every time I launch a live webinar, which I've done a million times by now, but every single time there's like something.
I know. Hey, Tanya, I know that you're watching. If you would do me a favor and tell everybody on that original feed that we've come live again, that we're here live in a different place, that'd be great. So we can get it. And if you're here, would you just say hi so I know that everybody's here successfully? That would be amazing. And we've got a little bit of a delay, so it might take. Okay, so Janice is here, Tara's here, Tanya's here, Deirdre's here. Okay, good. You got that message, Tanya. Thank you. Michelle. Hey, Michelle. Michelle's my college roommate.
Oh my God.
Isn't that amazing? You're not on the CYL page. I'm not. No, I'm in the CYL Online Soulfest page. I should be. Great. I'm back. Okay. Okay, back. All right, Lynn is back. Louise is back. Good, Louise. Oh my goodness, Louise got up at 4 a.m. to join us from Western Australia.
So amazing.
Crazy. All right, Tris, I'm just going to let you, people are coming back in. So what I'm going to do is just let you kind of take over and talk a little bit about your work. When we got interrupted, yes, you're in the right place. This is live, James. Yes, you are. And you're on, no, I'm in the CYL Soulfest page. It's saying that I'm on CYL Online Soulfest. Tanya, would you confirm that for me as well, that I'm in CYL Online Soulfest? Okay, but I want Tris to talk a little bit about her work, what she's been doing all these many, many years in terms of emotional integration. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about your work with Debbie Ford and yeah, the late and great and wonderful Debbie Ford. So let's just start with that, and then we'll get into some audience Q&A about emotions.
That sounds great, Liz. Right. So Debbie, you know, I think that oftentimes we find ourselves in life in certain places and in the company of certain people, and we have no idea how we got there or really why until much later in life. And that was certainly the case with Debbie Ford and myself. My initial introduction to Debbie came after my teacher and mentor, the late Dr. David Simon, who was best friends with Debbie. They were chums, they were buds. And David, I had been working with David for about 7 years at the Chopra Center, and he was grooming me basically to take on his legacy of teaching in the field of emotional healing. And I remember very distinctly, there was a day that he came to me and said, I need you to start getting on stage and teaching, like this is your dharma. And I said to him in that moment, that's awesome. I'm so like, thank you for this amazing, thank you for having faith in me. And I may look pretty decent and well put together on the outside, but truth be told, on the inside, I'm still a mess. And I'm still carrying a lot of pain and trauma from my own childhood. And I can't in good faith stand next to you on a stage and guide other people through something that I haven't fully moved through in my own life.
Mhm.
And he really respected that. And he said, I have the perfect fix for you. Her name is Debbie Ford. She's my best friend. I'll call her up. I'll send you to her. She'll fix you. Everything will be great. And then come back to work and we can get started with our spiritual path. Okay.
You were thrown into the storm with Debbie Ford doing shadow work.
I'm like going to see this woman named Debbie Ford, and I don't know who she is. I've never even heard of shadow work. So I find myself first and foremost in her shadow workshop. And of course, David had let her know I was coming. So we were talking. And then it later turned to her doing some one-on-one work with me and really talking me through deeper layers and levels of shadow and unconscious mind and the Jungian approach, and how she has sort of taken some of these ideas and melded them with the spiritual teachings of a lot of our modern day gurus, like people like
Right.
Deepak Chopra. And so we got to deep dive into a lot of group work, a lot of one-on-one work, and she became a mentor and a teacher to me, sort of out of the blue. She wasn't someone that I had ever sought out, and I remember her saying to one of her staff people, I learned this several years later after she passed, that she had told Fran, one of the gals that had worked with her forever, like, that girl's going to be teaching my work in the world.
Oh, Debbie Ford. Well, we miss her greatly. And Debbie was one of our greatest teachers at the Celebrate Your Life live events that we've been doing for 25 years. And I miss her a lot. I mean, she was just an amazing teacher, and everybody loved her workshops. So what I really, really want to get down to is the work that you've been doing, and especially about emotions, because there's so many things that we can talk about with emotions, like how many of us have been invalidated for our emotions, for years and years and years, and you can't have this emotion, you can't have that emotion. So I'm going to let you just start talking about how you work with people with their emotions, and especially right now when so many of us are feeling heightened emotions. Some of us are feeling anxious or sad or grief, anger, frustration, fear. Let's just throw it all out there. And everybody who's listening right now, there's quite a few of you listening. What I want you to do is think of any questions that you have for Tris, and you put them in the comments, and I'll make sure that we get through them. So Tris, just take it away. Let's talk about emotions. Like, how do we deal with this shitstorm that we're kind of going through right now?
Yeah, and a shitstorm it is, really, on so many levels. Over the 12 to 15 years that I've been teaching emotions on stage with my one-on-one coaching clients, in workshops and through my books, the biggest thing that I see people struggling with is connecting with their emotions. Like, a lot of people are really struggling with knowing how and or having a willingness to really go to those places where the deep wounding is at, and really looking at what's coming up for me, because we've really been taught by our parents, by our peers, and by society that it's not cool to be emotional. It's not acceptable as a young child to be overly expressive in certain ways. And that can even be positive emotions, positive or negative. So we learn from a very young age that we're supposed to sort of tailor our behavior and how we present as individuals out into the world, whether it's in our homes, in school, in society, etc. And so our early conditioning in life will greatly determine the degree to which we feel comfortable expressing ourselves.
Yes.
Emotions are not something that, at least in the day and age when we were kids and growing up, and I think the same is true for the majority of people watching, like, we don't learn about emotions as kids. We just don't. There's no class in school that's called, here's what emotions are, here's what they come from, and it's okay to have them, and here's how you can express them, right? How do you lean into the discomfort? And so
I love that. How do you lean into the discomfort? Okay,
oh, yeah.
So
And that's the key. That's the key with emotions is there's a couple different ways of looking at emotions. So we all have emotional baggage, right? Which is an accumulation of unresolved material that we've just been it's in the trunk and we've been carting it around with us from one experience to the next in life. So that's baggage. One of the things that I do with my audiences and with my coaching clients is before we even get into the deeper level work is I take them through a process of releasing past negative emotions, limiting beliefs, phobias, PTSD, trauma, etc. So we can kind of clear the slate of all the past stuff that we've been carrying. And now what we do is we work on how can we learn to navigate our emotions in the moment? How can we learn to navigate the sadness that we're feeling as a collective right now, globally? How do we learn how to navigate anger and channel that energy in a way that unfolds potential rather than perpetuates more melodrama? How do we navigate our fear so that we're able to use our past experiences and really what created the fear to begin with, right, was a past experience. How do we navigate those past experiences, the current experiences based on the past, but in a way that's going to have a different outcome in the future? And how can we evolve through that? How can we get to know ourselves better? Is really by doing the deeper work. There's an author named Michael Brown who wrote The Presence Process. Are you familiar with that book, Liz?
I'm not.
Oh my gosh, pick up a copy immediately,
Okay.
if not sooner. He writes that the only way out is through, and the only way through is in.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. We have to delve into our emotions, and some of the people are saying it's not a shit storm, it's a shift storm.
And I love that.
And how we're looking at it. And depending on the day, and Erica, I see what you say. Yes, it is the best days of our lives in some way. And honestly, you don't normally hear me, at least for this last month, I've been staying in a place of there's a reason, there's a season, there's something going on with this. And depending upon the day, and I've noticed my emotions have been up and down. Yeah. I'm feeling like, okay, this is okay, everything's good, we're all going to be okay. And then today was this morning, or actually the last couple of days has not been feeling like that for me. But everybody, you are right. This really is a way for us to become awake. And that was really just my stuff about saying it's a shitstorm. It's a shitstorm just inside of me right now, having nothing to do with what's going on out there. Because truly what's going on out there never can shake up and never can how do we say that, deter me from who I truly am. And the last couple of days it has. So let me ask you, giving that example, I've got a small business. We're all having great meetings about, how we're going to navigate this, because our company is based on live events and keeping us flowing. So and I know a lot of people are going through this as well. How do we, when we're feeling anxiety or we're feeling those kinds of emotions, especially during this time, how do we navigate through that? What are the implications of that?
It's a really great question, and I love whoever referred to this as a shift storm. I think that's so remarkable in many ways. We, as humanity, is being called to rise up right now, and as we know, growth is never comfortable. How I'm really kind of seeing this from a metaphorical perspective is that we've been seeing the signs, and we've been just not paying attention in many ways and heeding the warnings of the universe, like humanity. Slow down, connect with one another, love yourself, take time in nature, connect to God or spirit or the universe. All of these things that today's society just has us burning and churning, all day, every day. And it's impossible to keep up with. So I'm really choosing to see this whole thing as a universal reboot for humanity. I agree with you that everything happens for a reason. And I think, too, this is an opportunity. We're really toggling our humanity and our divinity. Like, we can see that from a universal perspective, of course, this is meant to be. And of course, the great awakening has arrived. And of course, we all need it. But then you're right, Liz, there's this human aspect of us that's like, but I have a business that I'm running. I have mouths to feed. I have a roof over my head that needs sustaining. And how do we how do we manage both of those things? And I like that you said that some days you're down, other days you're up. It's kind of the ebb and the flow. And the same is true for me.
Oh my gosh, up and down. Yep.
What I would say is, first of all, we need to give ourselves permission to be okay feeling whatever we're feeling right now. If you woke up feeling sad, Liz, then I want you to be in your sadness. Like, allow yourself to be with what is. That's my mantra for end of 2019 and this year. Be with what is. Allow what, and it's the ancient teachings, acceptance and surrender. Like, here's what's being presented. Humans, you don't have any control over this, but you do have control over how you choose to navigate it. So on the days when I wake up not feeling my best, or feeling like I want to give up, or it's just too hard, or I don't have the answers and I don't know how this is all going to end, I allow myself to sit and I like write in my journal. And sometimes I get down on myself because I'm like, I'm not being productive. I'm not doing all the things that I should be doing. And I think we're so busy shoulding on ourselves that one of the big things we really need to be able to do is to just sit in stillness and silence and allow ourselves to feel whatever is coming up. And also, there's a line there, right? So the past like 7 or 8 months, I'm moving into the beginning stages of navigating a divorce. And so I've sort of been living how we're living now for the past 8 or 9 months, which is taking one day and one emotion at a time. And so there's also a fine line, and I've noticed this with myself, is how long do I allow myself to sit in the sadness or to sit in the fear? Versus, it's kind of like the razor's edge, right? Like, how long is it okay to sit here, and is it productive before I need to take a different action, reframe, and get myself back up and moving and exercising and living and being positive again? But I don't think a lot of us, we're not comfortable with those negative emotions because they're uncomfortable. As humans, we're taught to seek happiness because that feels good. Joy feels good. Connection feels good. Love, fulfillment, all of these things that we want to be experiencing. And when there's a lack, when there's not, those things are not present, we don't know how to do it.
I think I'm going to hold on just 1 second. I just want to go through some of the comments, and then I do have another question for you. I love what Kathy said. Kathy had shared that emotions create disease, basically. And she said, I should say that emotions that are not processed can lead to illness. And she's right. Absolutely. Presence. People want to know the name of the book again. The Presence Process. Is that what it was, by Michael Brown? That's correct.
Presence Process. Get edition 2.
Oh, okay. Edition 2 is what you say. There's 2 editions. Okay. Janet shared that she is very up and down right now, but I do agree with what Erica, in that it is a great time to spend time outdoors, meditate, think about what to do when this is all over. I love that. The earth is healing. I struggle with the fact that some people aren't taking any notice of the social distancing and feel very vulnerable when I go out. I do too, Janet. How do you like to a comment? Oh, you just hit the like button, Erica. Okay, I thought you were asking a question. All right, I just want to make sure if there's any, okay. Tanya has a question in regards to me having a choice of how to deal with it. How about when my mental health is paralyzing and makes me feel like I don't have a choice? When the anxiety is so strong that sitting still is painful. Oh boy, do I understand that. I used to have horrible panic attacks.
Yeah.
I
teach a process to my clients, and I also guide the audience through this. I teach people how to do this at my live trainings. I mean, Liz, I don't know how much time we have, but if we have about 3 minutes, 4 minutes, I can guide everyone who's watching through a process that you can all use anytime, super simple. You can get rid of anxiety in under a minute.
Okay, let's do that. And I've got some other questions. Janet, I'm seeing your questions. I just want to acknowledge, I absolutely want to do that. We are going to do that right now. Janet had a great question also. But let's go ahead and do this one. And we're going to do a process, guys. So maybe.
If you're driving a vehicle, please pull over or come back and watch the recording.
Right, exactly. Don't do this while you're driving or operating heavy machinery. Put your vacuum down. Okay.
All right, so those of you who are experiencing anxiety, I want you to think of the thing right now that you are feeling anxious about and bring that into your awareness. Just take a moment to bring that into your awareness, and I want you to connect into the emotion that you're feeling, the anxiety that you're feeling.
I'm going to do this.
And as you're doing this, I want to just remind you that anxiety is future-based fear. So basically, anytime we have anxiety, we're taking some fear that we've had from the past, whether we're consciously aware of that fear or not. And what we're doing without even realizing it is we're projecting that fear out into our future. Essentially, we're putting a negative outcome into our future. That's what anxiety is. It's taking fear and projecting a negative or bad outcome into our future. And so, as you think of this very specific thing that you're anxious about right now, I want you to, do you have a picture of it? Are you feeling into it? Okay, perfect.
Feeling.
Here's what I want you to do. You're feeling it in your chest and your throat, Liz?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So I want you to just imagine that you float up above where you're sitting right now. Just imagine that you're floating up above where you're sitting. And go ahead and imagine that you're floating all the way out into the future above your timeline. Just go ahead and imagine that you're floating all the way out into the future above your timeline, which is the timeline of events that things occur. And listen very carefully. I want you to float 15 minutes past the successful completion of the event about which you thought you were anxious. Go ahead and do that now. So just go ahead and float out 15 minutes past the successful completion of the event about which you thought you were nervous or anxious. Let me know when you're there, Liz. Okay. Now I want you to turn and look back toward now above your timeline. And now, where is the anxiety?
I don't know why I want to laugh.
That's right, because it's not there.
I don't know why I'm laughing. But
so
I'm
go
laughing.
ahead and check in. Go ahead and check in. Where is that anxiety now? It's gone. It's disappeared.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. So go ahead and float back toward now above your timeline. So just come on back to now above your timeline. And do this however you do it, visually, auditorily, kinesthetically, and then just go ahead and float right down into now, back into the chair where you sit. And then take a nice deep breath and go ahead and open your eyes. Tell me how that's different for you now. I want you to think now about the event that you thought you were anxious about and tell me how that's different.
It's different because I don't know why I'm giggling, but I feel like I want to giggle, like I'm laughing. And I hope all of you are doing this at home, by the way, and can make a comment about your experiences as well. But I know for me, I looked back and felt the sense of relief, like, see, all that worrying, all that concern, all that anxiety, all that drama that I created was just a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very fast and simple and very, I mean, it's easy for you to do, and it's easy for you to teach your children how to do this as well, because children are great visualizers. They live in their imagination. Now,
Yes.
one thing I do want to say, just to sort of reiterate this particular process, Liz, is for anyone who it may not have worked for, it's highly likely that you didn't float out 15 minutes past the successful
I actually
completion.
Out farther out than 15 minutes. I just naturally went to like the first of the year.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's usually where people get tripped up, though, if they say, oh, it didn't work, I'm still feeling it. And it's because they just went out 15 minutes past the event that they thought they were anxious about.
Mm-hmm.
15 minutes past the successful completion. So that's the word that you
successful completion would be, for me, it would be the entire year. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, so that's why your unconscious mind, your subconscious is like, we're going to January.
Right. I just was like, okay, December or January, let's get through this year successfully, as whatever that means, with ease and grace.
And now for people who have what we call generalized anxiety, where that's just basically where you've taken so many negative events and put them in your future that you just whittle them down one by one. So like, pick the biggest thing you're feeling anxious about, do the process. Then go back, pick the next thing you're feeling anxious about, and just do it.
Okay. So I have, there's questions. So Michelle has asked, what happens if it's not an event, but a state or being? And then Tanya echoes, yes, or even if the event is out of my control.
Well, the events are all going to be out of our control because they haven't happened yet.
Right.
Yeah. And we are feeling a state of being. What I would ask you to do is, to your best ability, really get clear, keep chunking down. Chunking down is a term that we use for make it more detailed, be more specific. So if you're worried about feeling a certain way about something, then what would be the successful outcome that you would want? So instead of feeling a certain way about something that might be happening, or if you're worried about feeling regret at the end of your life, so that's not a specific event, it's just more like, hey, I'm coming up to the end of my life and I don't want to feel this particular state of being, or whatever that might be. Try to get a little bit more specific about what is it in particular that I'm having the anxiety about, and what would be the positive opposite or outcome that you would want instead.
Yeah, so it's almost like a few people are asking that. So it's when you're in that state of anxiety, there's usually, I mean, having gone through horrible panic attacks and anxiety disorder and the whole thing, and some of you know, I've shared my personal history. It wasn't about a thing, but then it really was about a thing. And once I got to the thing, right, once I got to what the anxiety is about, because I don't know that we really feel anxiety unless it's telling us something. There is something behind it.
It's a warning.
Yeah, there is something behind it. So I would venture to say, Michelle and Tanya and Lynn, I would go ahead and ask the anxiety, what are you anxious about? Like, what is this about? Because it's typically about something.
It will be linked up to a thing.
Yeah, so linked up to a thing. Okay, so Janet had a question previously. Let me see if I can find Janet's. There it is. So when we were talking about feeling our emotions and allowing ourselves to feel our emotions. And if you have more questions about anxiety, go ahead and keep posting. But I'm just going to go on to the next question. We can always come back to any other questions that you have about what Trish just addressed. Janet is asking, how long to feel sad, angry, alone before changing your mood? And Janet says, I tend to not allow myself to feel these things. She doesn't allow herself to go there.
Janet, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And pardon me, you're not alone. The thing is I can't really answer that question for you because it's different for each one of us. How we process our emotions and the stages that we need to go through in order to feel that they have been processed is going to be different for every individual. And so what I would recommend you do, maybe pick up a copy of my book, Healing Your Heart. It's got a workbook that goes with it as well. And that way you can just kind of work at your own pace. And there's little milestones in there that you can follow. And like, you'll just know on the inside, you'll start to get tired of feeling that way. For me, typically what happens, and I'll just be, if it's okay, just completely vulnerable and open about my divorce. Like, this came kind of out of nowhere. And I had like the fairy tale courting, the fairy tale engagement, the fairy tale marriage, and then whatever happened. And I just literally sat on my couch in what I call my cozy chair from July through January. And some days I was just a zombie, and some days all I did was sob. Some days I got back in the bed because I just wanted to end it all and just like go away, rain, go away, come again another day. And, I just allowed myself to be in that until I just knew or sensed or felt or heard, my higher self or God or whoever it is that whispers to me in those moments that it's time to get up. And so you're going to know when it's time to shift. And if you're still waking up and you're in your grief, or you're in your sadness, or you're in your fear, if you're in your fear, do this anxiety model as often as you need on as many things as you need, because you're going to be eliminating fear. Fear activates your fight or flight response. Talking about how emotions perpetuate symptomology, which creates disease later on down the road. It takes us, after we've been in the fight or flight response, it takes anywhere from 12 to 24 to 36 hours for our internal functioning to return to homeostasis. So if we get stressed out and afraid 3 times a day, then when are we ever returning to normal functionality? And the answer is we're not. So if it's fear-based stuff, if it's anxiety, use this model as much as you can.
It's a great tool.
If you're navigating, if you're feeling anger or like triggered and agitated and get to the root of what do I need in this moment that I'm not receiving? Like what would allow this sense of agitation or anger or whatever it is that I'm feeling to just completely dissolve? And find a way to do those things. If you need to get some space, like take a drive in the car, go to the other end of the house. And if you're living in tight quarters, you got to just create the space. Journaling is a great thing to do. Reading books is a great thing to do. Sometimes we just need to get out of our head and into our heart.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Greg Braden talks about that, going into heart coherence, slowing down your breath, putting your hand on your heart and slowing down the breath. Now, Tanya, if you're listening, would you run to Amazon really quickly, grab Trish's link to her book and her workbook? I'm so sorry, we should have been prepared for this, but if those of you who want to pick up her book and her workbook, we're going to put a link right there for you guys.
It's just a nice, slow way to process through it. And what I also love about that book is it's like, it also affords you a place to go. while you're
Absolutely.
processing, like you're reading it. And that book is not a read from cover to cover. So if you're looking for a book to read from cover to cover, pick up something by Brene Brown, who's, by the way, like my archetype and one of my favorites. But this is not a read cover to cover. This is like, get your journal out, get your box of Kleenex, light a candle, get your cozy blanket, and it's time to get. So it puts you in your process of doing the work. And it also takes you away from whatever's happening. You know what I mean? So it's like it separates you from, it puts you into a different state of mind and a different locale, not physically, but interdimensionally, and allows you to anchor into what's really coming up for me. What is asking for my attention? What am I not paying attention to? How do I need to heal this up? Another one of the processes that I use is called personification. I learned a version of this from Debbie. And when you're dealing with negative emotions that are coming up, sometimes it can help to, in your mind's eye or journaling, to personify the emotion. Like close your eyes and just ask yourself, if this emotion were to show up right now in front of me, who would they look like? How would they be dressed? What would the expression be on their face? And then begin a dialogue with this emotion, right? What are you here to share with me? Like, and if you personify it, you can almost take yourself on this journey, this imaginative journey of having a dialogue with this emotion, which is really you just getting in touch with an aspect of yourself that's unhealed.
I love that. Absolutely love that. I've done a lot of open share work and dialoguing with the fearful or the scared inner child or the wounded inner child. And that was instrumental in my healing process. Absolutely instrumental. And I love this dialoguing with the emotions. It's perfect. And we're in the process of reading a book. We have a little book club going on right now. We're in the process of reading a book called Diana. And in the book, she actually has dialogues with different parts of her that come to her as animals, but are really different parts of herself. Yeah. So I love that. That's a beautiful analogy. Oh, Tris, this has been so great. I'm going to ask everybody to post any kind of comments or questions that you might have for Tris before we sign off. Oh, everybody's just posting comments about, oh, I love what Eric is saying. Pick your crowd, hang out with your tribe, make sure, and those are other comments, set boundaries and disconnect from negative people on TV. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big one. Honestly, Liz, I have not turned on my television like in months. So I mean, some of my friends really get on me about this and they're like, you need to be informed. And I'm like, no, I don't actually need to be informed every 15 minutes of all the horrific things that are happening in the world. Like, I know that we're dealing with a very serious pandemic. I also know that it's an opportunity for a massive shift in consciousness and that we are being asked to connect with our purpose for being here and to slow down enough to hear that call from God and the universe and do something productive with this time, because it's only a matter of time and it's not going to be long before the doors are opened once again and we get to go back to life. And who are we going to emerge as? Are we going to come out of this all like tattered and torn and traumatized and like, no, we're going to come out of this awake, alert, conscious, more compassionate, more loving, more connected to ourselves, more connected to one another, and really paying attention to what is important.
Yes! What she said, you guys.
Stat, like get to work, my friends. And this is the work.
Yes, I want to read a comment that that James posted. He said, I love this chat. I've been on the same page as we're all going through this shared experience together. This was such a confirmation for the things that I have been getting and what I have been sharing with others. Beautiful, James. Oh, and he says, I love you, Liz. Thank you, Tris. You're both amazing women. Thank you. One thing we are all realizing with this virus is that we are all in this together. Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah, this is global, right? I mean, in a way, how cool is this that it's nobody is being discriminated against. I mean, nobody's being left out of this. Like this is happening for every person.
This is humanity, and we cannot, and I hear people blaming on other countries or whatever. This is not about another country. This is humanity. This is global, and it's almost like it's bringing the world together in this very weird way. I know. Oh, I love Alan Cohen. James quoted Alan Cohen here. I love.
Oh, tell me what he wrote.
He said so Alan Cohen, what he says about the news is the proctological examination of our reality. The I can't even say that word, proctologist. That's what he's referring to.
Oh, right.
The anal examination, right? Of our reality. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Tris, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
so
for having me.
Everybody's thanking you, the human tribe, sending you both so much love. Shabbat Shalom from Erica. Good Shabbos, Erica, and everybody. And Ginny says that music always calms her anxiety also. So this has been a much, much needed conversation. And I'm so appreciative that you joined us today. And I'm going to have you back in again to have more conversations about this.
Yeah. And after all of this shift storm has cleared and we're all firing on all cylinders and we have vibrationally raised ourselves to higher levels, then maybe we should do one on the ego, the persona, and the shadow.
I would love that. The ego, the persona, and the shadow. How does that sound, guys? Thumbs up for that one.
Oh, I got goosebumps. Oh, that's Debbie. Hi, Debbie.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
Talking.
All right. So much love to all of you that have tuned in for this live feed. Thank you so much. And I'll definitely be checking in throughout the weekend. And from my heart to yours, I'm so grateful for this community and for all of you showing up the way that you do with just open hearts and vulnerable and sharing your stories and asking questions.
Yeah, same from my heart to yours, everyone. Love you all.